2025 has come up with more questions than answers. Employment based immigration is changing fast. Rules are tightening, timelines are changing, and most importantly, the employers and the employees are under the pressure right now. And that is why it is very important, friends, for everybody to stay tuned and stay connected with our channel because we are going to provide you the best solution and also the expert advice through our experts who are going to join us in these amazing podcasts. So do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. Also, friends, we are live on YouTube, available on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and also on Instagram as well. And before starting and before inviting our very special guest for today's webinar, let me read out this very important disclaimer. By watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not a legal advice. So use of information at your own risk. Well, with that, friends, once again, everybody, welcome back to Immigration Talk Show. It's me, your host, Sam. And today I'm really happy and excited for this webinar because this is going to be like a brushing up webinar for everybody. So there are so many changes and updates that happened in 2025, and it's always better, to brushen up and to remember all the policies, all the important updates, so that you don't forget. And with that, to help me in making this session a wonderful one, I have one of our very special guests joining me in a bit, none other than Attorney Ruby L. Pars, who's also a board-certified immigration attorney and the founder of Pars Law Group in Houston. She has nearly 2 decades of experience in the field of immigration. So without any further ado, let me welcome her. Hi, Ruby. Welcome back to Immigration Talk Show. I'm really excited for this webinar. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. I've been on a lot of immigration updates calls today, so it's very timely and definitely true. There's so many changes happening that it takes a lot to stay on top of everything. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And we are also honored to have you here. And friends, the best part is you can also get in touch directly with our attorney. You just have to visit this link that is visible on the screen. There you'll get a contact number, email ID, and also the website. And you can go ahead and ask any question or share your documents or any case study that you're feeling right now is need to be guided. Okay, so with that, friends, we also have a presentation that is going to be presented by our attorney. So Ruby, I think the stage is all yours. Please go ahead.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's go ahead and, so, there are a lot of changes going on. So we're trying to just sort of stay organized in a way. And you introduced me well. Thank you so much. Based out of Houston, but we can help anyone on U.S. immigration federal matters. So I think that what we've seen is a combination of the H-1Bs were hot in the news at the end of September. A lot of concern about what was going to happen in the future. They sort of stepped back a lot of what they were saying in the end, but a comment period ended recently, and we think what will come about probably really soon will be what the end result of those comments and that proposed rule. And that was to give more chances of more of a weighted lottery system, if you will, for those who are in a higher pay bracket. And so we're going to see what happens with that. That hasn't been finalized yet at the time of today, but we are watching out for that. And I think that there's just been a lot of, because of all of that hubbub of what happened at the end of September, early October of this year, it really made people consider, are they eligible for some other H-1B alternative? But I think that still it is a great visa for what it was built out to be. And I think that if that new rule goes into effect, depending what happens of that comment period, I'm concerned that it might hurt a lot the pipeline of student OPT H-1B if it's going to give more bites of the apple or more opportunity, weighted lottery to those in a more of a higher pay bracket, which might be favor certain industries as well as not allow more of like entry level positions to make it through. We've also heard more scrutiny and just more requests for evidence and more chances, more denials. There also was the government shutdown, which means we couldn't file with DOL, Department of Labor, for a little while, but then they picked up before the government shutdown ended, and so that was good. We also have seen less deference to prior approvals. This is very common for the Trump administration, but then under Biden administration. So what that means is, like, if you had filed and gotten an H-1B or an E-2 or something like that before, under more of a giving deference to that approval, that meant like it's been approved before, we're very likely going to just renew it and give you a second, extension. But under Trump administration, generally they want to reevaluate it, and it requires a lot more scrutiny. The other big thing, we did a whole session not too long ago about the work authorizations, about getting rid of that 540-day automatic extension, which is really going to be a problem in about 6 months or so, when a lot of people whose processing times might be exceeding 6 months will have a gap where they won't have work authorization, and then they'll be in a tough position, employers and employees, of what they're supposed to do. Legally, they would need to pause that relationship and wait till the work authorization is approved. And there isn't a way to premium process or expedite these work authorizations, what we're talking about in this situation. But the most recently thing that happened just a few days ago is that they just now said they're going to reduce the for certain categories, with the pending adjustment status to C9, we're going to reduce the validity from what it was before to 18 months. So we might see that happen for other categories, but we're not sure what they're going to do in that. There's also were some new parole fees announced, and there's been lots of different changes.
Yeah.
Work site enforcement. You hear me? Okay, yeah. And then backlog for those categories. So what happened in the basically there was a lot of national interest waivers filed under the Biden administration, and that created some more backlog, and some of those visas haven't become available still, and so people's underlying visas, while they're waiting for their immigrant visas to be available, are starting to run out on their H's and their L's. There's been a lot of talk about a corporate gold card, but we haven't seen the details of that yet. And then there's just a lot more complexity, a lot of different changes. I mean, I think honestly, it's follow a handful of immigration attorneys to see what they're saying in terms of all the different changes that are happening. You have my information, but we can go ahead and go to some of the questions. So that was just sort of like laying the groundwork of what we're seeing. And I also, the students it's not employment based, but it is sort of the pipeline to employment. But I think we mentioned that in a prior session together episode about how they're planning to make changes to the F1 process. I think we're still waiting for that finalized guidance, but it will, if it goes forward, it would make it harder for people to, they'll be filing a lot of extensions, and those extensions are going to take a while. It's just going to make everything a lot more difficult, unfortunately, and then it could cause lapses in their statuses, unfortunately.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Ruby, for giving us a presentation, and that you have given us explained it in a very good way. Whatever changes or the updates that happen. So this was all about 2025. I just wanted to go a little bit of 2026. How, according to you, how 2026 can be or will be in terms of immigration? Will it be same way the 2025, or will it be more difficult or a little bit easier, or uncertainty, or what it looks like to you?
Well, I don't think anything's going to be easier, to be honest. I think the only hope we have is that it'll slow down the changes and the complexities of sort of deterring legal immigration. I forgot to mention, which I does affect employment based immigration as well, but we do have the travel ban that just came out
Yeah.
like a couple weeks ago. What was that, like right around Thanksgiving week? For citizens of Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen, as well as some other restrictions for Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. And so what we're seeing is that people who had like an employment-based green card for marriage or employment or what have you, their cases are being
Mhm.
paused or and for individuals from those countries. So I think a short answer is that it's probably just going to get more difficult, unfortunately. I'm just being honest. I don't see it getting easier. But I do think that with people, there's a lot of different federal litigation, there's lawsuits. I was even filing a habeas earlier today to help get individual released from detention. I think we're going to continue to see those challenges made by advocates for immigrants. And if we start seeing a lot of business owners and industries fighting for the pathway for immigrants to work in the United States, then we could see change there. There's the midterm elections in 2026, so we're going to just try to stay hopeful. But from the administration side, there's definitely a lot of scrutiny. And actually, there's one other thing I forgot to mention too, and that
Mhm.
was, speaking of scrutiny, is the review of social media, and that being a part of canceling visas and being a part of evaluation of an individual's just adjudication of whatever form of relief that they're applying for. So we're seeing that be a reason evaluated even more closely. So
Mhm.
be cognizant of what you're posting on social media if you're,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
All right. Well, that's a pretty serious talk, but I think that's very important. And thank you so much, Ruby, for guiding us and suggesting these very important pointers. Because I think there are so many changes and so many policies has come up with that immigrants are getting really confused. Which one is more important, which one is little less important, and there is also not very much clarity. But I think
Mhm.
if there's any confusion or any clarity that you guys are looking for, then please go ahead, put your questions on the comment section because this is a session and is very, very important session. And our expert is also sitting right here. She would love to solve all your problems. So go ahead. And I think Sid is also here. So hi, Sid. Okay, Imran is also here. Thank you guys for joining us. And let me take up Sid's question here. So, Ruby, this question is for you that Sid is asking. Hi, how will the latest announcement on LinkedIn verification work for H1B renewals? On what basis can the H1B renewal be denied based on LinkedIn profile?
Well,
Mhm.
I, I'm, I didn't hear about if this is a. Let me see what the latest LinkedIn verification. Look, the government uses um, they use the internet and LinkedIn to check to see what people say. Like if you are saying on your resume one thing, but then you're saying something else on your application, then you've got a problem. You need to be consistent. So I think they're if you're telling the whole world something and you're telling USCIS something else. I mean, I don't know if this is something necessarily new, but I've seen this happen before. When one of my clients was before he hired me, he was coming across the border. He told the officer where he didn't work or worked or whatever. Officer just Googled him, checked down the. So it's not just LinkedIn; it's also the company website because they could mention. the individual and what the status is. And so that's just good practice in general, is to have consistency. So between your resume slash CV and what's on LinkedIn and what's on the company website. So be consistent all across the board, and know that it's fair game. And if the company puts something online that's not true because they're trying to brag how many people they have, or I don't know, whatever, you need to tell them to get that down, because you don't want to have issues. I mean, I've also heard of people having problems where somewhere when they went to secondary to background check, when they were flying into the country, on their text it said something about paying to
Yeah.
be a babysitter or this or that and something, and then that was considered work unlawfully. So be very careful with your words, be very careful with working without authorization, and be as consistent as possible on what you are saying to the USCIS and what you're saying to the world. So hopefully that answers it, Sid. So
All right. All right. Thank you, Ruby. And Sid, I hope you got your answer. Okay, and let's go ahead with another question that he has. Can one file H1B amendment plus extension based upon a minor salary annual increase more than 6 months before the H1B renewal date?
um, I believe generally that they can, and this might be something, whatever, we always have to check at the moment if that is possible. I hope, Sid, you have a trustworthy immigration attorney that you can be talking to regularly about your specific matters. But generally you can, and again, like we said, things have been changing, including even like addresses and forms and all of those types of things. But and keeping in mind your recapturing time and all those types of things. So I believe so, but always double check when it gets closer to filing.
Absolutely. That's how it should be. And I think, Ruby, there's another question that's coming in my mind as, Sid has been asking. But I think 2025 has come up with so many policies and, so many different shifts. So what can you suggest? Like, what can be one of the most important, shift or most important change that workers should keep in their mind no matter what, according to you?
Well, I think you should be always paying you should always be paying attention to what's going on in the situation, which I think a lot of your listeners are doing that. They seem very informed and they are watching the news, and unfortunately I feel like everyone has a higher sense of concern because of these last minute changes that are being thrown on everybody in this whole ecosystem. So staying informed, but then trying to find a balance where they're not getting too anxious, where they can't, just live life. I think thinking whenever I do employment-based consults, I'm always thinking a few steps ahead. I sort of call it like A, B, and C. It's like, this is what our status is now. This is what we're going to maybe try to get. And then maybe the C is like the green card or something like that, potentially, if they do want that. So always be sort of thinking the short and long term game in terms of, and paying attention to like how that story can pivot along the way. Um, I think another potential option would be to have an alternative backup plan if necessary to the United States temporarily, potentially. I think I've been building my network with other international lawyers, immigration lawyers around the world. But like there's a lot of different employment based or nomad visas or investor visas that could potentially parlay you a chance to buy some time, get some expertise, investment, etc., work experience in another country temporarily until things settle. I mean, I really do believe this is like a pendulum swinging back and forth. We saw it from the Trump administration to Biden, and I think we're seeing it again now, obviously, with this Trump administration. So I don't think we're going to be able to afford to last forever be like this, because it's hurting our economy and our innovation. So I think that's pay attention, have a few plans, have a backup plan, and don't just trust something that someone tells you and just set it and forget it, because we are not in a space like that. We are in a needing to click the refresh button and evaluate what your options are. Unfortunately, it's definitely a lot more work for everyone involved, and it does keep us on a sense of high alert.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's very well put up, Ruby. And I think, friends, it's really high time, because you all are understanding how things are becoming very uncertain and rules are tightening and also timelines are being changing, and especially the immigrants are feeling under the pressure. So it's better to be properly informed and keep yourself updated. And the best thing is to take right guidance, because I think, Ruby, in this chaotic situation, people are also there who are going to spread fake news. Then rumors will also be there and going to misguide. So I think,
Right.
friends, it's better not to fall into any other trap, and you can directly get in touch with our attorney, because she's expert and she has nearly 2 decades of experience in the field of immigration. So you can just visit this link, get her contact details, her email ID, or her website too. And go ahead, check with her about your case, and you can also subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. All right. So now, Ruby, let me go with my next question. And while I was going through so many social media, I found this comment on Reddit, and there's this
Okay.
user who posted saying that, did my employer forget to file something, or is the system just broken? So here's my question: that what is the right way for employees to verify the real status? Because this is like creating little confusion. Is it the system that's broken, or the employers, not making some errors? What's your call on that?
Well, okay. I think it's easy to try to blame the lawyers because they're the sort of like the direct, they're the manifestation of the situation. They're the humans that sort of are the physical component that sort of are seen for the issue that you're dealing with. But let's give them grace because they're dealing with a lot of changes. And it is sort of unhuman to expect us to be able to stay on top of all of the things that are happening, which is why we're spending hours on meetings with other attorneys to see what's happening so we can share. And I really don't remember before this year how many that I had to spend 3 to 5 hours a week on meetings to stay on top of what's going on. And then go back and report it like we're doing today. So I'm not saying that they're completely blameless. There might be a mistake, but what extent you can, asking for the receipt, asking when something was filed, and checking the receipt progress on USCIS. There's programs like Lawfully. You could check it every once in a while on your USCIS website, and maybe your firm pays for programs like that. I know we do, to be able to monitor those changes. So I in my other life, I talk a lot about law practice management and to attorneys, and I say we've got to find ways to communicate what's going on a regular basis with our clients, so that because they're wanting instant answers, and it's hard for us to do that. But if we can empower them as much as possible, so if you have the receipt numbers, you can check that yourself what's going on. But anyway, it generally what I've also seen people do, even if their company is paying for the immigration firm, is that sometimes people come to me for a second opinion. And they just sort of say, this is what the company attorneys are telling me. From what is this true? And I might be able to say, yep, from what you're telling me, what I see in front of me, that is true. They might say something, and I might well, you should ask this question, this question, this question, and they go off and they ask those questions, and then they feel more at peace. So that's another thing you can do, is get a second opinion so that you can feel more at ease. But really, it's hard for us in second opinion space if we don't have all the information from like the receipts and like the timeline and things like that. So those are some of the thoughts I have, but definitely ask and follow up. And I just do know from the attorney side, a lot of people are overwhelmed right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's another very great point. Okay, now let's go with some of our viewers' questions, and I can see Rajendra and Imran is also here. So let's take up Imran's question. Hi, Imran, and thank you so much for your participation. Let's see what you're asking. How will the 2025 USCIS fee adjustments and digital processing changes impact employers sponsoring the H-1B applicants? Yes, Ruby.
Um, well, we're still waiting to hear all of the other changes that are going to be coming out, and the new H-1B season with how they're going to do the lottery system. We've been able to do online filing for H-1Bs, so I don't know what they mean exactly by the digital processing necessarily. There has been changes with how the filing fees are paid. Like, you can't do checks and money orders anymore. That was recently, and they're making us pay with the ACH and or with a debit or credit card. Yeah, the fees have been honestly, I think when we get closer to the filing time is when we're going to really know what all of the circumstances, because I think that they've announced changes with the fee for the filing fees, but we haven't seen it. We're not sure what they're actually going to do in the end. And then the other thing is that whatever they're proposing, sometimes that's going to be that there's going to be lawsuits against that if they can't justify the legality of it. So, I mean, maybe that's a general answer, but there are a lot of moving parts we're still trying to figure out, and we're also waiting for the finalization of how they're going to do the weighted lottery as well. So I think as we get closer, because right now it's mid-December, I think probably we'll have a better idea of what's happening in January and early February. Unfortunately, I know that seems last minute because people want to make decisions and make plans, but I think that's sort of what we're dealing with right now.
Absolutely. That's very much unfortunate, but we can't do anything with that. That's how we have to deal with it. Okay, thank you, Imran, for your question. And if you have any follow-up question or any other question, then please go ahead and put them in the comment section. We will take it up. Okay, Rajendra is here, and he's asking, can you explain how current visa bulletin movements and priority date trends are shaping green card strategies for Indian nationals?
Okay, well, let's take a look at the. Well, we're about to get January in just another week, hopefully. So then that'll be good. Well, so we still see in first preference India's in March 2022. Second preference, unfortunately they're in May 2013. So that is quite a delay with that 12 and a half years. And third preference as well, September 2013. Other workers, September 2013. And fourth preference, September 2020. So there's still a long way. It's more delayed as a whole than any other nationality. For the most part, I think when people are aware of that, they're especially with the perm process, they get the H-1B extensions as long as they are able to and be eligible while they're waiting for that visa to be available. I think other considerations would be to just looking at the question again. So yeah, it's really delayed, and I think there is that protection when you have the perm process and moving forward with the I-140 to have H-1Bs extended beyond those 6 years. But other than that, there's really not a lot of other options other than waiting outside or maybe obtaining another citizenship or using cross chargeability with a spouse or something along those lines. But those are definitely concerns for the immigrant visa process And I think that that's always been a longstanding issue that concerns the Indian national community who are trying to go through the immigrant process through employment based in the United States.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ruby, for addressing this question, and I hope Rajendra, you got your answer. Okay, we have another user here, CDK, and the question is: Hello, thanks for answering our query. What happens to H4 dependents in the US if the H1B principal is stuck abroad for visa stamping? Yes, Ruby.
So they're stuck, and the H1 has not been extended, and the H4.
Mhm.
Oh, that's you're making me think really hard today. So let's see. Um, well,
I think fulfilling the purpose then.
yeah. um, I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, we know, right, that the H4 is dependent on the H1B. And depending on, there's some things not clear exactly. We're assuming some stuff with the stuck part and the stamping part. But, as long as the H1B is still valid, the H4, the marriage or the relationship that makes the H4 an H4 is still valid. But if the H1B hasn't been extended, and then the H4 is not extended. So and they are tied to the H1B. So I think depending on the specific circumstances, this could be very problematic, and it really would come down to analyzing what exactly you mean by stuck, and how was there a gap, and what happened to the H4 specifically between the dates. But there might need to be some fixing potentially with a nunc pro tunc extension, but we'd have to take a look at the specific facts. But it does look problematic with what you're telling me here.
Absolutely, it does. And I think with that, let me take just one more last question
Okay.
from our viewer, and this will be from Selomit. So, hi, Selomit, and thank you so much for your participation. He's asking, I'm worried about losing my job because of stricter compliance rules this year. If my employer hesitates to sponsor me, then what alternative pathways can I explore to stay in the US legally?
Okay. Well, I don't know your education, your work experience, your nationality, or any of that stuff. But if generically, we usually look to, if we're in a short term bind, maybe changing over to a B2, a tourist. That's sort of what happens when either people are let go and it's unexpected and they didn't have a backup plan. Usually,
Mhm.
when we see layoffs or economy downturn. The other thing would be to maybe change to an F1. We go to school or some type of a program of some sort. What you'd have to do is get accepted to the program, show the documents to get the I-20, and do a change of a visa from whatever you are on to the F1. You can at this moment do premium processing for that change. So I would highly suggest that to be able to move on with your life and confirm your status. There's depending on lots of things, like, are you married? Are you wanting to get married to somebody? Are you going to marry a U.S. citizen, a legal permanent resident? What's going on there? Some people are, if they have no other options and they can't return their home country, some people explore asylum. Are you eligible to do national interest waiver based on your own, standing with a resume and your CV and your experience? Are you
Yeah.
of a nationality that you can invest in a company like an E2, for example, and could, on your own merit, be able to stay here in the United States and have your own company and do an extension with those E2s, because there's not a deadline for that. I mean, there's not a time limit. So those are some of the things that just come to mind, and I'm probably, forgetting a few other ones. But when we do consultations, it's like we play detective. We get the CV, the resume, the history, and we take a look, and we try to explore what those options are and what's happening, and then and then we go there. But like I mentioned at some other point in our program, you also could maybe look at other countries temporarily to build up your expertise, language, just and maybe or to give yourself a break if like you had the H-1B and you were almost about to time out and you want to come back, get that year abroad and then come back in. So there's lots of different potential options. It feels like there aren't, but there are, and I would have to know more specifics to be able to give you some more guidance.
Absolutely, that's right. I hope Salomit, you got your answer. And as Ruby has been saying, she needs more details about it, and obviously, it's not possible to like explain anything without having proper detail. So I'll just say that keep this thing in mind that small changes can actually make big differences. So you can go ahead, share your case study with Ruby, and that's how I think you'll get the right guidance and the proper detail. Okay, with that, Ruby, I think we have taken a lot of our viewers' questions and it's almost time to. So I just wanted to, before letting you go, I just want to ask this last question because I think this is very much important and immigrants mostly ignore it. Because, while going through the process, they are not realizing what mistakes they are committing. So, according to you, as you're an expert, you have been through so many cases.
Mhm.
So, what mistakes or what biggest mistakes you found out from the immigrants, who have been doing in 2025 and should be very much careful in the upcoming years?
Well, I think we sort of covered it a little bit about having don't assume anything. Assuming is dangerous. Have several
Yeah.
sources of reliable immigration advice and information from like this programming to directly watching USCIS website, watching a couple of attorneys on their social media, LinkedIn, their newsletters. Like we give out a newsletter in English and Spanish every other week. So don't assume, have several sources of information, have some backup plans in it, a few ways to be able to pivot, and just be open to being adapting to change and being agile because that's sort of what we're having to deal with at this moment. What else would I suggest? I I think those are sort of the big ones. Don't you're going to have to be a little bit more, how do you say it, like just you're going to have to probably follow up a little bit more because the attorneys and the firms are really overwhelmed and they're trying to do their best. They really are, but like if something doesn't feel right, talking about with the prior question where the individual said, I don't know, is it the attorney or is it the system? Well, if it doesn't feel right, I probably just double check and remember that whole set it and forget it. It worked well for, whatever that program was on the infomercial, but it doesn't really work for immigration. Like you really need to be constantly evaluating if everything is well and you might need to pivot because we're getting hit with a lot of different changes. So I think we also just need to try to stay positive and fight the good fight. And between like class action lawsuits and things like that, we've been able to see some big changes. I think the other thing I would mention is just be aware of what you're putting on social media because they're making changes there, and it could be something almost like retroactive. For example, they could go back and try to look at some prior posts that were potentially innocent or what have you, and then what have you. So, well, thank you so much for having me, Sam. And I wish we could be like on a little bit more on a positive note, to end the year. But we're trying. It's not like we're not we're not trying.
Obviously, I understand. I think, we are just discussing, but I think it will be more difficult for our viewers to understand the fact and, to accept the
Yeah.
changes or the policies that's happening. But I think that's how, friends, it is. And I think instead of looking at negative or positive, just make sure that at least you are informed. If you are informed, whatever the policies or the changes are, then you should find yourself lucky enough because there are so many people who are actually skipping the updates and Ruby are not able to understand to believe this one is true or to believe that one is true. So I think so many things are happening. But anyway, thank you so much, Ruby. It's always a pleasure to have a show with you. And I'm really looking forward more shows with you. Until then, thank you so much, and really have a great day ahead.
Thank you. You too. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you so much. All right, friends. So that's all for today's webinar. I hope you guys enjoyed, and also make yourself aware about the 2025 updates and policy changes of employment based immigration. In case if you still have any doubt, any query, then don't hesitate. Please make sure that you share the link of this webinar with your loved ones or with your family or anyone who is navigating the complexities of immigration. And don't also forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. So, friends, we are going to come back again with another very important and very timely topic soon. So, don't go ahead. Also, hit the bell icon so that you get the notification whenever we come live with our very great attorneys and experts. You can also subscribe to our channel. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. So, that's all for today's webinar, friends. Thank you so much. See you soon. Till then, take care, everyone, and goodbye.